Hi, friends. This is Wendy Harrop, and welcome to the Say Yes to Yourself podcast. On the Say Yes to Yourself podcast, you'll hear stories from women just like us who are adding the practice of saying yes in their daily lives in big and small ways, and as a result, are experiencing the truth that everybody wins when you say yes to yourself. Saying yes to yourself is a graceful unfolding, an intentional becoming of the very best version of you. It is my hope that in these conversations, we are able to find our truth and be inspired and empowered to live our very best lives. I'm so excited to go on this journey with you, and I look forward to finding a bit of our own story in each other's. Hello, friends. Welcome back to the podcast. I'm so happy that you're here, and I'm giggling a little bit to myself because A, I'm so happy. Hooray. And B, I was at a friend's birthday dinner last week, and when I walked up to the table, there were 5 or 6 people already there, and as I walked up, I said, "Hello, friends." And this woman, she's so sweet. I hadn't met her before, but she listens to the podcast, and she was so excited because she had heard me saying that in her ears, just like you are right now. And I just think that's so fun. And I would love for you to hear me say that in your ears in real time. For sure, if we're in the same room, but also I have this really fun opportunity to be live in some of these conversations. So if you love this podcast, thank you. And if you think, oh, I I have a question, or I want to know more, or I wish they would have asked this, I have a super fun opportunity for you. So I am hosting the Say Yes Summit. The very first one is February 18th and 19th, and there'll be a link down in the show notes. But what I'm doing is I am collecting 8 fantastic former podcast guests, and they're going to come and present at this summit. The theme is love. It's virtual, so you can join live and interact with these speakers. We'll have time for Q&A and all of those good things. If you are not available during the day, 1 to 4 Eastern, you'll get the replay, all of the good things, but you will get the opportunity over 2 days to hear in real time from 8 amazing speakers. It's only $47. It's unbelievable. If you are a part of the Say Yes Sisterhood, a part of our membership, then it's completely free. In fact, if you join the summit for $47 and decide, oh my gosh, I want more of this, I want to be in the membership, you can use your 47 summit dollars toward your 97 sisterhood membership for the month. And that's how all these good things work. So I would love to have you. I'm going to be doing more of these. The guests were so excited to be with you and be together again that I got all the speakers I needed in one day, which is so fun. And I am telling you all of that to, of course, invite you to be a part of it, but also to remind you these beautiful dreams in your heart. If these dreams are in you, these dreams are for you. And sometimes the next step feels a little scary, but I encourage you to use those beautiful 20 seconds of courage and just send the email, make the call, hit publish on your post, whatever it is that is the next step on your beautiful path to your beautiful dream. Please just do it, because I am telling you from this viewpoint, 8,000% worth it. Every single thing. So, so good. I'm so delighted. You can hear my voice is a little bit hoarse. I have had 5 hours of interviews for this podcast today, and I am so lit up. I can't even stand it. It's so good. Oh, I'm going to reframe that. I can stand it. I can believe it. It's the life I've deliberately created. And I hope that these conversations that we've been having and the ones that are on their way to your ears, oh my goodness, are just permission slips for you to say yes to yourself in big ways, in small ways, in lots of ways every single day, to normalize this spirit of yes, this life of yes, and really truly believe and know. And if you don't believe and you don't know, you can come watch me. Everybody wins when we say yes to ourselves. It's just delicious and yummy. And an amazing, amazing woman who is saying yes to herself is today's guest, Chris Janssen. She is a leading results coach in performance and mindset. She's a best-selling, award-winning author of Living All In: How to Show Up for the Life You Want. She has worked with hundreds of sought after athletes, creatives, soldiers, entrepreneurs, and small businesses internationally to close the gap between where they are and where they want to be. In addition to her academic degree, Chris was trained by and worked with Tony Robbins on his team of results coaches, the #1 personal development and peak performance strategy company in the world. As a board certified coach with a master's in counseling psychology and 25 plus years of experience, Chris excels in helping high achieving perfectionists navigate performance pressure, overcome self sabotage, rewrite narratives, and attach meaning to life events and circumstances beyond our control through her successful and sustainable living all in methods. Her second book, Grace Yourself: How to Show Up for the Sober Life You Want, is now available. It's so exciting. She is in a beautiful, celebratory time of life with the launching of her second book. There's so much fabulous energy, so much insight and beautiful, tangible takeaways for you. I know you are going to love this conversation with Chris Janssen. Chris, I am so delighted to have you here. It's been so fun just chatting before we hit record and finding out how many things we have in common geographically. And it just reminds me of how we have so much in common, even people that we've never met before. And it's such a beautiful opportunity for discovery and curiosity. So thank you so much for being here.
Oh, thank you for having me. I love how you said that. I love how the universe brings people together that are meant to have conversations and meet.
It's true. And I love that this podcast has been such a beautiful testament to that truth. I only record on Thursdays. And so today I have 5 interviews. So there's this element of speed dating to it, but it's also like, oh, I choose her and I choose her and I choose her. And it's just really fun to have these conversations, to be connected with people that are heart-centered, that are like-minded, that are saying yes to themselves in big and small ways and paving the way for others to do the same. It's really just such a giant gift.
Yes. Well, and I appreciate you having this podcast and bringing these conversations to others so we can learn from them and mostly be inspired. I like listening to inspiring podcasts from people like you.
No, thank you. Well, we're already winning then. Hooray. So how are you saying yes to yourself in this season?
Well, I am in the middle of book launch season. I'm launching my second book, and
Yay.
my husband and I, we just celebrated 29 years of marriage, and
Congratulations.
thank you. We became empty nesters in 2020. And so I feel like that just happened yesterday, though. So I
No.
feel, I didn't really have that. I didn't have a sadness like some people describe. We're very close with our adult kids and we see them quite often. So I was just really excited and I wrote a second book and so the saying yes right now is really just saying yes to everything book launch, right? Instead, and it's a great question for me because I even realized last week I was in a little bit of a scarcity mindset about, oh, well, do I really need to spend this amount on this? And I thought my first book is called Living All In. And so
Ah,
I thought,
you should read that.
yeah, exactly. And I thought, you know what? I said yes to the second book. And so it doesn't make any logical sense to me, whether it's a penny pinching financially or a mindset of my time. It doesn't make sense to hold anything back between now and the book launch. So I'm not overcommitting in a way
Right.
that's stressing me out, but I am saying yes to everything right now. But right? So that's my answer today.
I love that. And I love that it's just Amber Lillystrom had this amazing quote, and I've said it a few times in the past couple of weeks of recording podcasts, and that is that the yes unlocks the how. And sometimes we can get stuck in like, well, how in the world am I going to get this book out? And the holidays are coming, and how am I going to get on all these podcasts? And I'm going to go to book signings, and I'm going to do all the things. And, is it going to be a bestseller? Look at book one. I mean, we just can totally spin and just decide to make cookies instead or do something that is a delightful thing on its own. But if we are using it as some form of avoidance or not stepping in to
Hmm.
the logical next step in a book
Yes.
launch is to get on a podcast or to, do some things. And it's those conversations that unlock the next idea or the next collaboration. I'm collaborating with the last
Uh,
3 people that I've had
yes.
conversations with, so I'm really eager to see what's gonna happen between you and I in this conversation as well, because it's just once we get past whatever that terror barrier is or just the discomfort or not feeling like it, I mean,
Hmm.
we have to balance. Sorry, I have so many words now.
Mm,
We have to balance out listening to our bodies. What are we doing that feels like an obligation? What are we saying yes to when we really want to say no? Like that's a whole other, that's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about this yes that feels scary, but in an expansive way. So Gay Hendricks talks about this in his book, The Big Leap, and that the difference between fear and excitement
hmm.
is breathing. So if you're able to breathe through it, you're just excited. And if you're holding your breath,
Yes,
then
that's
that's
really good
fear.
distinction. I just bought that book. Yes, eh, of course I did. And
Of course you
absolutely,
did.
there's a lot of information and advice out there about um, scaling back, right? Self-care is saying no to things. And yes, there's a place for that. It's also, like you said, that can be a form of procrastination or fear. And the
Mhm.
subtitle of my first book is How to Show Up for the Life You Want. And the subtitle for the second book's How to Show
Mm,
Up for the Sober Life You Want, because it touches on patterns and addiction. But the reason I have show up in my subtitles is exactly what you just said. It's that, like Amber Lily Strom said, the
yeah.
yes unlocks the how. So if we just show up, that in my experience has been what leads me to what's next. Not reading another book, not getting another certificate or degree. It's showing up, especially when I don't want to, and being in community when I'd rather isolate. And if I
Right?
just keep showing up, and yes, we do need to,
Right?
have limits or boundaries. Yeah, and balance. Yes.
And
And
balance.
there's no perfect balance. I talk about that in my book, right? Balance can be striving for perfectionism. So just navigating that tension and navigating a rhythm of,
Hmm.
like Gay Hendricks says, of how it to stop my breathing, or am I able to show up and I'm still breathing? And I just love that. Yeah.
Yes. Yes. And there is intentionality around that,
Mm-hmm.
and it's practice. There's not, oh, well, Amber Lillystrom says that the yes unlocks the house, so now I'm just going to say yes. There's not a one size fits all. There's this I I believe that saying yes to myself comes from conversations that I have with myself, and they are every day, all day long. They are with my higher self. They are with my creator. I use the word God.
Mm-hmm.
I'm asking God all the time, what would you have me do? Where would you have me go? What would you have me say? To whom would you have me say it? Which is outlined in A Course in Miracles, which I am a student of as well. And I am in this. I mean, can you have a dialogue with yourself? I'm because I'm in this monologue where I'm continually checking in, and what is my yes right now? And sometimes my yes is a no to whatever's been asked of me. And sometimes it's go for a walk,
Mm-hmm.
send an email, check the laundry. There are many times in my day where I have 3 to 8 minutes in between calls, or whatever is fabulous thing is pulling my attention. And I'm just in this practice of asking, how would you have me use these 4 minutes? Because I want, not that there's a right way or a wrong way, I'm just practicing what it feels like to ask and what it sounds like to listen to that
Right.
answer.
And I think as a coach, a good question I have clients ask is this moving me forward in the direction I want to go or not? If yes, keep going, say yes. And if not, maybe say no or pause or later.
And then what do you suggest to your clients if they're feeling like it's a no? Then, because that can be like, oh, well, then what am I supposed to do? Like, these are the only things that are I'm doing the best I can, like it can feel deflating.
We start with having a crystal clear outcome. What is the big want? What do you want? And be very specific about that. What do you want specifically? Like, the way to get down to the specifics is, how will you know you've reached that? Let's just use a simple example. If you came to me and said, as a client, and said, I want to make more money. Well, my first question is, well, how will you know when what is the amount and by when? Put a date on it, right? So being Chris, because I don't know, is $5 more money? Is $1 million more money? So be specific, put a date on it, buy a buy date, and then the everything else, which I call strategy to getting toward that outcome, those are the things we're going to decide yes or no, or maybe later. We're going to decide, does this move me toward that higher goal?
Right.
And if not, then we'll probably ditch it. Or maybe we might attempt it or put it into practice and it didn't move us toward that thing. No big deal. We do many, many things that don't work to get toward a goal more so than the ones that do. So, and I work a lot with perfectionists, and I see this a lot where a perfectionist will go, well, that didn't work. So then they ditch the goal. Like, no, 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 no. Don't throw away the outcome. It's just one tactic. We're going to tweak the tactics. That didn't work. So we'll do something else and keep going, keep moving forward.
How are you finding coaching a perfectionist. I
Mm.
mean, first of all, great job. They hired you. That's got to feel really, really good. And
That's
how do
funny. I never
we,
thought of that.
I've heard recently Kathy Heller said perfectionism is a trauma response.
Hmm.
And I remember just like, oh my word, I was driving. I had to ask Siri to make a note of that because I couldn't stop the car on the highway. But I thought, oh my gosh, if that's true, and my everything in my body said that's true, what does that mean? And what is that trying to keep me safe from? How is that keeping me from the
Hmm.
things that
Hmm.
I'm pursuing? What tips do you have as you're coaching a perfectionist that also, I'm assuming that you're also wanting to help them put a little bit of that down?
Hmm. Yeah. So, well, first make the distinction between a high achiever and a perfectionist. And now we have some books that say perfectionism isn't all that bad. So when I'm talking about it, I am talking about harmful perfectionism. So self-sabotage, which I
Right.
do want people to set that down.
Yeah.
So yeah, the comment about coming to me for coaching, yeah, I think it's more, they would probably more have read that I help people with self-sabotage. So they're probably feeling a little like they need help. Um, Instead of thinking, yeah, that they're all that. Because I think if somebody's struggling with perfectionism, I think they're also struggling with self-sabotage and shame and guilt and those things that are,
And
they're
frustration.
not thinking I'm perfect. They're definitely not thinking that.
Totally.
So I would make the distinction. I think a high achiever, and language is just language. It's whatever
Right.
people want to call it. But we do need to have kind of words so at least my clients know what I'm talking about. So I say a high achiever is high growth.
Mm,
You're going to move toward your goal. And when something doesn't work, you're going to ditch that thing and keep moving toward the goal. A perfectionist, like I just talked about, will, if something's not working, they might just ditch the whole goal, crumple up the
mm,
paper, throw it in the trash, and go, that didn't work.
okay.
And that is the sad thing that I want people to not do because they're so close to the goal.
Right.
Don't throw in the towel right before you found the pot of gold,
Right.
and that's just that 2 millimeter shift where so many people, so many high achievers will be almost to their goal, but they think that's where they start to plateau or it gets uncomfortable. And instead of pushing through,
Hmm.
we'll go, oh, well, this isn't working. And then, kind of settle for great when they could have extraordinary
Mm.
because great is also good.
Right, which you're going to love Gay Hendricks' book
Right.
because he talks about that zone of excellence and
Yes.
that zone of competence first, where you're just doing your thing. And then the zone of excellence is you're really good at the thing and everyone's super glad that you're doing the thing and nobody's mad. And you know that there's more. And everyone is telling you, why do you want more? You're killing it in this space. And that's what the big leap is from the zone of X to the zone of genius. And that is, whew, it is a big leap.
Yes, that's fantastic. Yes. And that's, working with performers and creatives and people like that, I think they tend to be more hard on themselves. And so that's really important. So that's the work. And um, to answer your question of how do I do, one of my favorite tools, I have several in both books, but one of them is to ask somebody like, okay, what's the goal, right? And if they say, and then what are the rules you have for yourself for reaching that outcome?
Mm-hmm.
Like say you come to me and you say, well, I want to be happy. Well, first we're going to define happy. How will you know when you're happy? But then if I say, well, what are the rules that you've set up? What do you have to do and what do other people have to do for you to be happy?
Mm,
And if you tell me something that's outside of your control, like I need to be accepted, I need to be included. I need other people to like me. Then we need to tweak that rule
Right.
for reaching your goal, because that rule, you do not have any control over it.
Right.
But a perfectionist and someone who accidentally slips into self-sabotage doesn't see that discernment, and they think, so they've set really unrealistic standards, you know.
Oh
Yeah.
my gosh, what rewarding work you do.
It is. It's very rewarding, right? Because light bulb, it's so simple, right? That's so simple. We all learned that in junior high. Don't set
Right.
unrealistic standards, but we're intelligent people, humans. So we complicate it and we set
Right.
unrealistic standards. So that's what coaching's so great. It's just someone to partner with you and go, hey, here's what I see. I can see you don't see it. So then the light bulb goes on and they're off and
Right.
running.
Oh, it's so, so wonderful.
Mm-hmm.
So tell me about the second book and what principles because the subtitle links back to the subtitle of the first book. What made you want to write the second book, and who is it for?
Mm-hmm.
What are you wanting them to take away?
Yes. So the full title is Grace Yourself: How to Show Up
Mm,
for the Sober Life You Want. So there is one chapter in my first book that really has all my favorite coaching tools in it. And again, they're simple. It's fundamentals, right? We go back to fundamentals. So and we know these things are a good idea, but I feel like my coaching and books will hold your hand and show you how you're going to do this, right? We know it's a good idea to think positive thoughts and all that, but how do you flip a thought when one that's not serving you comes in your head? So I have tools for just like walking people through that. So there's a chapter in the first book about patterns and addictions and patterns that are harmful that we want to get rid of. And
mm,
so I took that chapter and wrote a whole book. So I'm sober.
amazing.
I got sober in 2007. And I don't,
Congratulations.
thank you. I don't really, I talk about it in my sober community, but it's been so long that I don't really, I have never, there's people I'm close with that didn't even really know that about me. They know Chris
Sure.
doesn't drink alcohol, but they didn't really know why. So I really felt like I shouldn't say I wanted to. I didn't really want to write the book. It was very uncomfortable. Honestly, I just was um it was a God calling.
Totally.
I wrote it all down and I shared my story, not, and I'm clear to say I'm not an addiction expert. I'm
Yeah,
an expert at my own story. So
that's
this is my
right.
story. And then I'm put in, like the first book, my coaching tools into this. It's very practical, where almost every chapter has an exercise. And so it's really more about the reader than it is about me. But in order to share these concepts, I share my story
Right.
of sobriety. And so then after I wrote it, I thought, shoot, now I have to talk about
And can you say
it.
more about, not that I'm trying
No,
to,
yeah.
poke at your bee
No,
sting,
no.
but can you say more of why? I mean, you said you didn't want to tell your story, or you don't, is it, well, I'm going to let you answer.
Well, yeah, and now I'm past that, because I am going on podcasts and I am launching this book in February. And I think if you write a book, you need to be prepared to talk about it 6 months before and 6 months after, not nonstop after launch.
Right.
So so I'm past that. I am talking about it now, but I don't, but that's kind of the point. Like we can't have shame around, and the world is understanding that now.
Right.
There people are talking about it. But in 2007, when I got sober, it was, and I should clarify, sober from alcohol. So I was just I was, uh, let's call it a social drinker. I was in people I hung out with. Um, Drank. They didn't seem to have a problem with it. My husband's a very normal drinker. He doesn't drink a lot, but it's like he can have a drink and leave half of it there. I just never felt like I was a good drinker. It always felt like I always felt like it just did not sit right with
Mm.
me
Like
the
I'm not
way
doing
it,
this right.
I'm
Everyone
not
says
doing
this
it
is
right.
fun and I am not
And I'm
having
an
fun.
achiever. God
Right?
love the achievers, because we will make spreadsheets for our drinks. We will do everything to try to make it right. And so I
Yeah.
write about that in the book, and about how being a high achiever and a recovering perfectionist plays into addictions. And
Wow.
so even if it's not alcohol, someone will really benefit from reading this book to get rid of a habit that's not serving them. Um, and so back in 2007, it wasn't like today where we have a lot of sobriety groups,
Right.
there's mocktails you can
Right.
buy. It's kind of cool to not drink now. People are not drinking for
Right.
health
The
reasons.
labeling on all the
Yes,
non-alcoholic spirits are
y-
darling
super
and
cute.
fabulous.
Yep,
Yes.
super cute. But back then I didn't understand it. I
Yeah.
thought in my family, I came from a family who doesn't drink. Everyone
Oh,
was raised in the Nazarene denomination. My
okay.
parents raised us in a community church like after I was 8 years old. So I wasn't raised in that denomination, but you have a pattern of the way everyone's always done things.
Mm-hmm.
Nobody drank. That's just so when I got to high school and kind of out into the world was when, and I didn't have shame because people were telling me it was shameful.
Right.
That's not it. I'm just not a good drinker. And there's a lot of people like me who are, it's our personality type or chemical make. It's not any
Mm-hmm.
one thing. Um, some people it could be a past event, right? They
Yeah.
could be drinking over something.
Mm-hmm.
There's we say in sobriety, and I say in the book, it's not so much why I drank, it's me knowing my why for why I shouldn't drink and why I don't want
Mm.
to drink, right? Because we have a saying, I drank when I was happy, sad, mad, or glad. It really
Mm.
doesn't matter,
Yeah.
right? It's not about finding that one thing and then dealing with that.
Yeah.
Some of us can't drink alcohol. It's toxic, and some people can, and some people can't. And so I do make the really clear distinction in the book that I am not a non-drinker for just health reasons. There's a lot of um, when you're in recovery and you have to get rid of something that's really had a hold on you, like
Sure.
alcohol did on me, and it's addictive. There's a lot of things beyond just giving it up for health reasons. You need community.
Mm-hmm.
I think I need spirituality. I need a
Mm-hmm.
higher power. There's certain things I need to stay sober. And so, and I think some people, I have several friends, or my kids, some of them and their friends have decided not to drink, and they don't need like a support community or all these other things that I do. So I do make that distinction.
Sure.
Yeah, and so I tell in the book how I was sober 14 years, and then in 2020 when we moved out of state and I didn't have my recovery community that I'm familiar with, and then all these mocktails and this trend of not drinking came on the scene, I thought, I don't think I'm alcoholic. And for people not looking at me, I'm using
Right.
air quotes. So I talk about that word and how it doesn't serve some people. It actually does serve me to identify as that, because that helps me know that I can't drink, right? And I
Sure.
don't have shame around it, but I appreciate that some people do, and I don't think they
Mm-hmm.
should use it. So that is one of the exercises. Let's walk through how you want to label this thing.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, when in 2020, I thought, I think I maybe drank to numb these other things, and I've come so far. And so I decided to drink again, and it it was very clear right away. It was not it I had changed and I
Yeah.
had evolved, but alcohol had not.
Mm.
So I write about that and how it was really difficult to get
Yeah.
sober a second time.
Sure.
And so that's where I came up with a lot of these things that are in the book. And so now
Right.
today, I mean, it wasn't fun, but today I can say it was a gift
Right. I mean,
because
that's
it
what I
gave
was
me
going to
more coaching
say.
tools.
Right.
Yeah.
But I didn't want to sound mean, but I
No,
feel
yeah.
it's true. I mean, and when I think the type of personality that you have and the way that you've evolved and the way that you are using these life experiences already to help people and to coach people, it has us look at situations a little bit differently, where it's like, "Oh my gosh, I'm so glad. I'm so glad that I am having this
Yes.
awful, heart-wrenching experience that's so painful because I know this will be in service to
Mm-hmm.
somebody." And I mean, I feel that way about my divorce, and which is my second
Yes.
divorce. And my first divorce was like you. I just thought, oh, I'm just not doing this right. And I'm going to stop that. And okay. And it was very easy. And there were no assets and no children and all the things. This time, it's very, very different,
Mm.
and I
Yeah.
but I am very, very different, and I am evolved, and I my faith is stronger, my mindset is stronger, my body is stronger, my will is strong, all of these things that are in service for me to interact with this life experience I'm having, and to do it in a way that is in service
Yes.
to other people. And of course, do I wish, well, I wish no painful thing on any of us. But I do know that my pain, I'm choosing to give it purpose, and pain is inevitable, suffering is optional, and I'm using this to help somebody else know that we can do hard things and there is joy and bliss
Mm-hmm.
and abundance on the other side.
I love that. Yes, absolutely. Don't waste a hurt. And I love that you just said, I'm very much in that camp that pain is not avoidable, suffering's optional. And I've, had people rub up against me on that, but I do say it in both books. Pain is natural and suffering's a choice. And again, that's linguistics. I don't want to get stuck up on words, but so I think even in the first book I called it emotional misery versus natural pain, right?
Mm,
Because I
right,
do read the Bible and the Bible uses the word suffering, and so I think it does mean something a little different there. So
right.
and
It's been
people will come at you
translated a
if you
lot of
use the wrong
times.
word these days,
I
but I get
know.
what you mean, and I think you know
Yeah.
what I mean. Yes, there's natural pain, definitely, or if we want to call it natural
Mhm.
suffering, but I think to be stuck in a camp in an emotional home that's not serving us is where I love helping people get unstuck because I don't think that's natural.
Absolutely. Abraham Hicks would say, you're just beating the drum of this thing that it's already happened. That gum has already been chewed.
Yes,
Like, yes,
yes.
that happened. Yes, we're sorry. Stop going back there and talking
Yep,
about how painful it is to keep being back there. You're not back there. Let's,
exactly.
let's,
Yes.
it's just a distraction from your highest and best and what God has for you. And nobody is winning. You're not, and you're
Right.
not to get on a total side bar, but it's not condoning bad behavior to move on and live your beautiful life.
I completely agree. And in fact, that's why I love coaching so much. Back when I got my master's in counseling psychology therapy, I, it may have changed since then, but it's very much about the past
Yeah.
and placing a label on something that happened in the past. And the more I studied it or tried to get myself unstuck, the more stuck I got.
Yes.
And then when I learned about coaching, I thought that was phenomenal. This is all about what works, not what hasn't worked in the past.
Right.
Yes. And so I am all about that. And still there's people that I think there's
That's
some
okay.
type of comfort some people take in being stuck in a
Right.
comfortable feeling. It's just not it's not really an achiever characteristic though.
Right. And I think, and then of course, I'm sure you ask your clients that are experiencing that, like, what is the gain here? What do you get to
Right.
hold on to by continuing to keep this story?
Exactly. And I love that. What's the gain? I ask a lot, what's the cost? What would be the cost of giving it up?
Mhm.
And they might say, yeah, I'll have to get out of my comfort zone because it's comfortable. There's going to be some costs. We'll write those down. But what's the cost of not giving it up?
Yeah.
What are you losing out on if you don't get unstuck? And that cost is usually far greater. So that's where we get leverage on
Right.
to move forward.
Right. I'm having this, I'm in the process of redefining this concept of being stuck. I've been listening to Abraham Hicks, and they're talking about there's no stuck. Like, we're always in motion. If you're
Mm-hmm.
feeling stuck, it's because you are recreating the same thing over and over and over again. And it's a decision. And we
That's
have
right.
to break the habit, stop the momentum. It doesn't go from despair to joy in one leap, but you just move up the emotional scale, and you can tell by the way you feel if you're going this way or if you're going this way on the emotional scale, and that those are the indicators. It's all
Mm-hmm.
it's all your internal GPS is telling you, make the next legal U-turn. You are off the route. Go the other
Right.
direction.
Yes, that's good. Yep.
So you have been so brave and so courageous in sharing your story, in giving people tools. And like you said, they are able to, if alcohol is not their point of addiction, that they can use these practices and these resources to apply to whatever their situation is. So how are you doing that in the book? How are you walking people through? So I think I interrupted you when you were trying to give us the trajectory of the books.
No, I don't think you interrupted
Okay,
me.
good.
There's three parts in the book, un uncovery, discovery, and recovery.
Mm,
So there's three parts, and it's, um, I mean, there's exercises throughout. So, but it is defining what we want to be sober from. And this, it could be, it
yeah,
doesn't have to be a substance. It could be controlling
right.
thoughts or,
Hmm.
um, any number of things.
Suffering. It could be
Exactly.
suffering.
So it can be that, and we identify that, and then there's tools. I work a lot with people on belief. I'm a big believer
Yeah,
that, truth plus story equals our belief. So if there's a fact of
right,
what happened, and then there's the story we attach to that fact, and that becomes
right.
our belief. And some people, good coaches, can see this, like right away. We go,
Yeah,
and that's what's so great is that's one of those light bulb things we can show a client. Okay, let's look at this story that you've had attached to this thing that happened in your life for years. And then once you shine the light on that, the belief changes. Then we work on practicing and conditioning that new belief, because you might not believe it right away. And that's super exciting work for me, is just totally obliterating limiting beliefs, because
right,
they just don't have a place in our lives. But
right. It's just a thought you keep thinking.
yep, and we've given them power, and they don't need to have any more power. So
Right.
I there's a big section on that. And then reading the book would be kind of like coaching with me, where I'm going
I
to take
love
you
it.
through the different things, and you can apply it to your specific situation.
Oh, I love it. I love that you've done this. I love that you are working through your resistance to it in healthy ways. And I was just wondering, in that process, besides knowing that you're supposed to write the book and knowing that That's a part of a book launch is you have to talk about it and hopefully only 6 months before and 6 months after. But
Right, right.
most likely people are going to come to you after and you're going to have to talk about it. How did you work through that resistance in from a mindset way? Obviously, I can see the action you took. You just did it because you know this is the
Hmm.
formula of launching a book. But how can we take action in moving through this resistance, in creating a new belief around it? What tips do you have for us?
I think it is really important in recovery, no matter what I think any good recovery program needs to be a program of action. We can't just read and think our way into where we want to go. And so, like being of service is a big deal in recovery, serving other people, getting out of our own head and out of ourselves. But I would say for me and for other people, yes, it's the action, like act now and think about it later. Like but because I think it was a little easier for me to get through this hesitancy to, and now I'm through it, but just because I've been working on this with other people for so long, so I knew, okay, well, I have some resistance here. And I actually talk to people so much about inviting resistance and making it your friend that instinctually I knew almost, almost, you know, I am definitely supposed to do this because of the amount of resistance I feel.
Right, right. And that's yes. That's where I feel like name tags would be very helpful because
I
I want to know
know.
like, is this
Yes.
resistance or is
Right.
this fear, is it
Exactly.
healthy or
Yep.
does it mean I'm supposed to
Yep.
go? Is it my ego freaking out because there's no evidence of success? Or is it stop,
Right.
do not go in the
I know,
basement.
I
There is
know,
a
I
bad guy
know.
down
And
there.
I know
It's
I'm in Colorado. There's bears that live here, and I'm scared of bears. It's one of my, it's like my
that
number
that's
one
a
fear.
that is a inappropriate fear.
Yes, exactly. So
Yeah,
I could tell this wasn't a bear. And I think, I just think with experience, you learn to discern what's a bear and what's something you should be doing. And I still think, though, it's important to keep tabs as you're going. Yes, the goal is to get this book out there. There might be things on the way to that goal where I go, okay, that didn't work, or I'm not comfortable sharing that part of the story, or
yeah,
whatever it is, where you can really kind of tweak the strategy, but not
absolutely.
get rid of the whole goal and
Yes.
learn as you go.
Oh my
Yeah.
gosh. It's so good. I'm excited for you.
Thank
I'm
you.
thrilled that you did it. You faced despair. And it's
Oh,
really going to be helpful for people. And that's amazing. And you are doing such beautiful work. And this is a great opportunity to connect with a whole new audience that
that's true.
needs your services, the things that only
Hmm.
you can do. That's really beautiful. Please tell
Oh.
everybody where they can find and follow you, how they can get their hands on both your books. Tell us all the things.
Yes. My coaching, my website is always updated with all the latest things, and that's chrisjansencoaching.com.
Perfect.
And I'm on LinkedIn and Facebook at Chris Janssen Coaching. My Instagram's Chris3Janssen. The number 3 is in the middle. I have a book launch funnel right now that's graceyourselfbook.com that you can go, and this is exciting. There's some bundles and assets there that if you pre-order the book directly through me, you get an opportunity to purchase 5 to 50 books, whatever you want to use them for. And they come with all kinds of great stuff. I wrote a workbook. I wrote a
Wonderful.
workshop. Yes, I've been busy. I wrote a master class. Actually, if you buy one book, you get my master class. It gets emailed to you. So that's nice. The funnel will be up between now and February 18th, which is
Yes.
launch day.
Awesome.
And those assets, just because they're like I'm giving a lot of stuff away, that's just available between now and launch day.
Perfect.
But you can always stay in touch with me at the website.
Oh, that's so great. Thank you. We
Yeah.
will link everything down below in the show notes.
And my first book, thanks for asking about
Of
that, Living
course.
All In, How to Show Up for the Life You Want, is on Amazon right now. You can get it now. And
Perfect.
brace yourself, pre-order it now. Please pre-order. Pre-orders mean the world to authors. So if you could
Oh, can you say
pre-order
more
the
about that?
Yes, okay. So for authors launching a book, I didn't used to know this. It's all has to do with algorithms and things that change over time. But the way the literary world is now, pre-orders are so important because and book distribution is so important. Like my book is Brace Yourself is distributed by Simon and Schuster, which means it's more than just Amazon. You can get it at
Right.
Barnes and Noble, Target, Books a Million, lots of different places. Those are all on my website. Any author that's launching a book would really want on launch, the week of launch, you want as many pre-orders dropping from distributed across a variety of places.
Okay.
And that is how authors make bestseller lists.
Okay.
And ultimately, like if the goal is not a bestseller list, I mean, my goal is impact, right? So I
Sure.
want I want to help people, obviously. So to do that, I need to sell a lot of books. And
Yes,
so
you
to
do.
sell a lot of books, you need to the best way to have the biggest impact would be to make some bestseller lists and would be to have as many pre-orders dropping on launch week as possible.
Sure. Okay. Thank you for that.
Yeah.
And is there also something connected to writing reviews?
There is reviews are really important after launch.
Okay.
We don't want to
And
write
like on
reviews.
Goodreads
Goodreads and
and
Amazon. Yep. We don't want
okay.
to write reviews before launch because it again triggers the algorithm wrong or something. But any review,
Right. To think that you're launched
yes,
already.
any
Okay.
review written after, like in my case, after February 18th is really important for authors.
That's perfect. Thank you. Because we want to support and we want to support intelligently so that
Yes.
it actually can be leveraged. And I also
Yes.
love that you are selling the bundles. I am working with a coach that she is also launching a book, and
Ah,
I purchased 30 books to use
uh-huh.
as a favor. I was a wedding planner, so anything that you leave
Oh,
my house with
perfect.
is a favor.
Yes.
So, so I do
Yes.
a summer solstice white party, beautiful dinner in my field every year, and so
Oh,
her book
lovely.
is going to be, at each place
Oh,
setting for people to take
yes.
home with them. But that's just really fun. It's something that someone can do if they're buying the bundles that, starting a book club or
Yes.
doing something like this, because even the topic of your book, isolation, is tricky,
Mm-hmm.
and it makes you think that no one should see that you're ordering this book and no one should see that you're contemplating being sober because it means you don't have a handle. It's ridiculous.
Right.
Whatever isolation is telling you, do not listen. Listen to her nemesis, which is community,
Mm-hmm.
who says, loud and proud, queen.
Yep.
And that's the beauty of buying this bundle, creating this book club or some sort of community group around it that just says, I see you. We're supporting each other. We're all doing the
Yes.
best we can with the tools we have. And now there is a book with even more tools. Let's get after this together. And like you said many times, it doesn't have to be alcohol.
No.
I'm
Mm-mm.
remembering now a group that I was a part of at my church when I lived in California, that we identified something we were addicted to, whether it was power, whether it was busyness. I can't remember what the other things were
Mm-hmm.
because mine was busyness. And it was really like we implemented the 12 steps to work through this addiction of
Was it Menlo Park Press?
no, but it was the highway community,
Oh, okay.
and which was right in Palo Alto, right next door.
Yeah.
So yes,
Because because the author of the pastor, the ex-pastor from Menlo Park Press endorsed this book. And John Ortberg, has a wonderful book coming out the same month called Steps. And he loves the 12 steps. So we have a lot in common in
Amazing.
that way. So I'm supporting his book launch as well.
Oh, that's
But
wonderful.
it seems like something I thought maybe he walked you all through that.
Right. No, he didn't, but the person that did, his name is JD and his last name is escaping me, but he used to be on staff at Menlo Park Press and then came to Highway to do this and to do his whole organization is what's working through that. And it was transformational.
Cool. Yes. Oh, see, I just love this. That's so cool. Yeah, and actually one of the assets I created is if somebody buys a certain amount of books, I will facilitate the book club virtually. So that's all that's all at graceyourselfbook.com. And that's when you buy hardback copies through me.
I love it. Thank you so much. I have loved this conversation.
I have too.
I'm super excited to support you, and I cannot wait to have you back for book number 3.
I can't wait. Oh, and I want to support you too, Wendy. Thank you so much. I love what you're doing. Love it.
Thank you. I hope you enjoyed that conversation as much as I did. As always, any links or notes mentioned can be found at phineaswrighthouse.com in the podcast section of our site or in the show notes below. And if you haven't connected with me personally, come find me on Instagram at Phineas Wrighthouse and let me know you listened to this episode. I'd love to get to know you. Thank you for sharing this time with me. I know your days are full, and I'm really grateful that you chose to spend some of your precious time right here. Be sure to subscribe to the podcast so you don't miss any of these delightful conversations. I'll see you next week.